Why? Yes, we're starting a new writing unit. And we will be writing powerful personal narratives. And you may be asking yourself, didn't I write a personal narrative last year? I need you to join. Right? Come closer. You did write one last year, and you will write several in middle school, right? You know, in 7th grade, 8th grade. And the reason is because the personal narrative is something you will need as you go through high school and university. When you write your university application, when you apply to university, they will ask you for a personal statement, right, which is similar to personal narrative. Right, so this is something you will use often in your career, right, as a student and as an adult. Okay? So, we're going to get started. Today's goal is to learn from texts others have written and start reading like a writer. So I'm going to show you what that is today. First, I want to give you an example. So I think I told you before that I started training jiu-jitsu. So it's like wrestling, right? So one of the ways to get better is to watch somebody who's really good at it, or watch another student do it. Okay? And then think about what they're doing, why it works, and then how I can do it. So here's an example of something I might watch.
Hey guys, it's Val here, and Ninja here. Today I'm going to work on based on a triangle. A lot of people are having...
So like I would watch them...
We're going to start here. I'm going to dominate this hand here and grab on the ankle. Point my...
Right.
Yeah, here, I'll push one.
So I watch that, right? I watch somebody who's really good at it, or another student. Think about what are they doing? How does it work? How can I do it? Right? So you do the same thing when you watch soccer, or you watch somebody play like LOL, right? Or if you watch somebody play games. If you, do you watch Dan TDM? You know who Dan TDM is? When you watch him, right? You're watching him play this game, and you're asking yourself, oh, you're saying, wow, that's really cool. How can I do that? Right? So we're going to apply that same principle to our writing. Okay, so today I'm going to show you another student's writing. And the first time we read it, we're just going to read it to enjoy it, to hear the story. The second time we read it, we're going to think about what the author does that we like. What do we think is good? And then the third time we read it, we're going to look through it again, and we're going to ask ourselves, what can I do? How can I do what she did, right, to make my writing better? Just like you watch Dan TDM to get better at what game? What's a game? Minecraft, or I don't know, Roblox, Brawl Stars, Brawlhalla. I like that one. Brawlhalla, the other team. So I want to show you this student's writing. It's right here. Okay, the first time I read it, you don't need to see it. You're just reading. We're reading to just enjoy the story, right? To learn the story. Just reading for fun. Here we go. I shivered a little bit. It's pretty cold, I said as I dipped my toes in the water. I took a pebble and threw it into the creek. I threw it far into the creek. Well, whatever, I said, as I plunged into the cold water. It felt amazing. The cold water covered my eyes like gentle blankets, and the water washed over me like a breeze. Swimming is my favorite. Wait up, yelled Emma. as she ran down the hill with her floaty wrapped around her waist. Her curly brown hair whipped around in the breeze. I shivered. I was cold already. A moment after that, it's hard to read right here on this one. India's mom waded in, laughing. Ah, it's cold, she said. Then she stopped. Girls, out of the water. She pushed us back to shore. I looked back and saw a long, thin water snake slithering toward us. I gasped. I quickly swam underwater in big, wide strokes. I never saw any water snakes around the creek, I thought. So we're going to stop there. Right? That's the name of the creek. I'm not sure what the name is. So, what happens in the story? Well, we read it, we enjoy it. The girl, she's at the lake. She throws a rock. She jumps in. It's cold. Her friend comes. Then her mom comes, and her mom says it's cold. And then she screams at them to get out because there's a snake. Right? Cool story? Yeah. I really like this story, okay? So, now that I read it the second time, I'm going to think about things that I like. Okay? Think about things that I like. Now, in the beginning, right here, just look right there, it says, I shivered a little bit. It's pretty cold, I said as I dipped my toes in the water. I took a pebble and threw it far into the creek. Now, even right there, if I close my eyes, it's like I'm right there at the creek with her. Right? I know what it feels like to shiver. I know what it's like to put toes into cold water. Right? So I really like what the author does right there. Okay? Because I can create that image almost exactly in my head. Right? So how did she do that? Well, one of the things she did was uses tiny actions. What's the tiny action in the first sentence? Shiver, right? Shiver, right? I shivered a bit. And then, it's pretty cold. What's that? What are those weird lines up here? It's a quotation mark, right? So she says. So there's some dialogue, right? She's talking to herself. But we have this tiny action and dialogue. Okay? And then I took a pebble, or I dipped my toes in the water, right? That's another action. And I took a pebble and threw it far into the creek. Another action. So I got these three actions and a piece of dialogue, right? Something that she says to herself. So as a writer, okay, if I'm going to read like a writer, this is what I do. I look at this, I say, I like this. I can create this image in my head immediately. So when I write, I want to do the same thing. So I ask myself, what does she do? Tiny actions, dialogue. And I have that up here on our chart. All right, it says, help readers picture the episode. So, a small action, exact dialogue. And in my picture here, I've tried to show you that a small moment is very small. Okay, this whole story could happen in a few minutes. Right? But it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. Right? They escaped the jaws of the giant water snake. Alright, so for our narratives, what we're going to think about is focusing on one episode. Okay, so this is one episode. The story we read on Monday or Tuesday, Everything Will Be Okay, that has several episodes, like several scenes. but this one is just one. Okay, this is what we're going to try to do today. Okay, so we have that, and we have small actions and dialogue. Right, and again, my picture is to try to help you see that the small moment is really small. I think of it as like zooming in. Imagine an event, whatever you're going to write about. You zoom into it, you slow it down, you jump in that moment. And write with detail so that your reader can create that image in their head, like a movie. So what I want to do, I'm going to pass this around to you, and you are going to read the rest of the story and find something you like. And you'll get a chance to turn and talk about that briefly. Okay? So take one, pass it. So this is like your second reading. And you're asking yourself, what do I like? Extra? Who needs one? You got it. So you're reading you're going to continue where I left off. And I want you to find something in here that you like. It's okay. All right, now I want you to tell the person next to you something that you like in this story. Tell them what it is. You can just say, I like how she does this. Or I like this sentence. I like this part. Okay, turn and talk right now, 30 seconds. All right, guys, let's come back together. I'm going to tell you the great things that I heard. I heard somebody say, I like the tiny actions. And there are many in the story. I heard someone else say, I like sensory details. Fancy. So what's a sensory detail? Can someone share that?
So it's like the 5 senses.
Yeah, so a description, a detail that's related to something you taste, touch, see, hear, or feel. Here she talks about the water covering her eyes. Right, so that's a sensory detail. Okay, I heard someone else say, I like the, who was it? Was it you? What did you say? It was Tiffany. Tiffany's are tiny actions. Kate, what did you say? Somebody said, Daniel, what did you say? Sensory details, tiny actions. Right. There was one more that I heard that was good. Oh, hold on.
It keeps same feeling as readers and the character.
Okay. Well, right. That's our goal, right? Did somebody say description? Okay. I knew somebody said it. Description, right? So sensory details related to our description. That's all. Yeah. think it was Ryan. Description. Right, so we got tiny actions, description. I didn't hear anybody say I like the dialogue, but for me, I really liked, you said it?
He said he liked the Bible.
I like it when the mom screams. Right, because that was fun for me to read. Right, I tried to scare you, just like the girl will be scared in the story, right? Just to show that emotion through the dialogue. I thought that was great, so I'm going to put that there. So what I have here, I want you to think about this as a recipe for a powerful narrative. Right? A recipe. So your job today will be to first annotate. You're going to put this story in your notebooks. You're going to annotate it. That'll happen at your desks. And then today you're going to try to write a story. Right? One episode where you use these ingredients. Okay? So I'm going to send you back now, and I want you to first glue this into your notebook. Sit quietly, and then I'll give you the next instruction. So give me a thumbs up if you know exactly what you have to do.